Is anybody tired in the room? All right, how many of you are tired? Can I get 20 of you to come down here? Now I'm serious about this. If you're tired, could you come? Libby? No? Mike? Yes? Erin? Yeah, please come. I saw those that I know. Anybody tired on this side? Anybody tired on this side? Yes. Yes, come. Yes, Jonathan, come. Yes. Yeah. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, Adil. Yes. Yes. How many are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I need 8 more people. Yes. I'm only looking for tired people. If you feel tired, just come. Just come down here. Are you joining me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more people. 5. Okay? 2. 2 more people. You can't let me down. 2 more people. 2. Somebody, anybody. All right. Yes, I found my 2 people. So good afternoon, everybody. My name's, I love this. I think there are more than 20, but I don't know how I'll work with this, but yes. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is, just like you heard, Marc Gwamaka. And you heard about peace and values education over and over again. What I want to do is demonstrate one of the courses that we do. Is that okay with you? And with this, we're going to use a very short time, and then I'm going to get time for these people to talk to me, but also for you to talk to us, isn't it? Then we can interact. And I'm going to ask somebody from Aegis Trust who can get me 2 role plays from the office. 2 more role plays. Thank you. As I distribute these ones. Simple instructions. I'm going to give them role plays. We're going to do a role play on forgiveness. I'm going to ask them not to share any of these. So what they're going to do is they're going to read them to themselves. I'll give them a minute. And then from there, I'll ask them questions which they'll be answering and role-playing according to the individuals that are here. Do you understand it for now? Any questions? You need your glasses? All right. I hope you come back. Have you all read your roles? Apart from you two, yours are here coming. Let's go for her. She read all the one. Great. I'm going to ask you to stand on the line behind you. The small line. All of you, same line. And Yes, let's give the other two a minute. Great. So my instructions are simple. I'm going to read out various statements. And I want you to bear in mind the role that you're going to be acting out whenever you're answering this. Now, the instructions are simple. When I say a statement and you don't feel like it applies to you as that human being you're playing, please stay where you're standing. If you're in agreement, make one step forward. If you disagree, make one step backward. I repeat the instructions. I'm going to read out statements. And as I read out those statements, if you agree with the statement I'm going to make one step forward. If you feel like it does not apply to you, stay where you are. And if you disagree with the statement, just make one step backwards. All in favor say aye. Great. Do you have any question? Oh, great. So in order for us to follow, I'm going to ask the AV team to give me the PowerPoint presentation so that you can also read out the questions and also put yourself in their shoes. Question 1. Forgiveness is a gradual and progressive process. Forgiveness is a gradual and progressive process. Forgiveness is a gradual and progressive process. 2. Forgiveness is not possible if anger and negative emotions are still there. Not possible if anger and negative emotions are still there. Forgiveness is not possible if anger and negative emotions are still there. 3. Forgiveness is, if I ask for forgiveness, I will find peace. Forgiveness is, if I ask for forgiveness, I will find peace. Five. Forgiveness requires admission of guilt by the offender. Forgiveness requires admission of guilt by the offender. Forgiveness requires forgetting the past. Forgiveness requires forgetting the past. Forgiveness requires getting an apology. Forgiveness requires getting an apology. Forgiveness requires getting an apology. The question is, can you do one-on-one? Like, can you stand in the middle and dance a bit? You can stand like that. It's all right. It's all right. Forgiveness requires acceptance of the truth. Forgiveness requires acceptance of the truth. Forgiveness requires acceptance of the truth. Nine. Forgiveness is, if someone asks me for forgiveness, it is my duty to accept. If someone asks me for forgiveness, it is my duty to accept. Great. I want to stay where you are. And I'm going to get a second mic. And what you're going to do for me is read out the statements that you have. Read out the statements that you have. Thank you.
Mfite imyaka 21 mbana n'abo twasigaranye ababyeyi banjye bishwe muri jenoside 1994.
I am 21 years old, living with my siblings. My parents were killed in 1994 genocide. That was her statement.
I was not among people targeted during genocide, but I believe strongly in my friendship with survivors.
I have spent 5 years in prison because of what I have done during the genocide.
I live every day the consequences of genocide. My family does not want me to be friends with kids of perpetrators.
I am doing positive actions every day to survivors to pay my debt as a former perpetrator.
I also was not among people targeted during the genocide, but I believe strongly in my friendship with survivors.
I am living in peace with the choice I made in 1994, and today I am helping orphans.
I am 21 years old, living with my siblings. My parents were killed in 1994 genocide.
I'm involved in a peace club in my secondary school.
I have lost everyone. How can I forgive?
I am a 14-year-old living with the shame of what my family did during the genocide.
I'm helping widows from the genocide to have a better life. My older brother was involved in the genocide.
I am living in peace with the choice I made in 1994, and today I am helping orphans.
I am also helping widows from the genocide to have a better life. My older brother was involved in the genocide.
I was not among people targeted during genocide, but I believe strongly in my friendship with survivors.
I'm involved in a peace club in my secondary school.
I am 21 years old, living with my siblings. My parents were killed in the 1994 genocide.
I am also 14 years old, living with the shame of what my family did during the genocide.
I have spent 5 years in prison because of what I have done during the genocide.
I have lost everyone. How can I forgive?
I live every day the consequences of genocide. My family does not want me to be friends with kids of perpetrators.
I am doing positive actions every day to survivors to pay my debt as a former perpetrator.
Thank you very much. In the audience, what do you see about this group right now, at the moment? Anybody? You can scream it out loud. What do you see? Hint, hint, they started on the same line. Yes. Forgiveness is a spectrum. That's what you're noticing. All right? Any other person? Yes, sir. It depends on context. All right? One more person, maybe on this side? Yes, ma'am. It's a personal matter. All right, let's turn to them. Why are you guys standing in different places, yet you started from the same place? Why? Anybody?
Well, I put 2 feet because forgiveness is really messy and complex and nuanced, and it was a question about the apology. And so there is this place, I think, that yes, for some people, until they have an apology, forgiveness is not possible. And for other people, it's not about the apology. I'll never get an apology. The forgiveness is for myself. So it's this dilemma. It's very personal.
Okay.
Yes, so mine said that I believe strongly in my friendship with survivors. So on most of the questions you asked, my thinking was survivors think different things. And if I'm their friend, I can't step forward or back unless I know what they would want me to do.
So you stayed in the same place?
Pretty much.
My comment is very similar. There were questions I thought I don't have the right to answer that because it's not my choice. Because I am in a different place than the person who needs to make that choice.
What role were you playing?
As a perpetrator, I didn't feel I had the right to speak for a survivor or anyone else, so I stayed put a couple times.
Okay. I still have a question. Can perpetrators also forgive? Themselves? They can forgive themselves. Yeah.
Also their family.
Themselves and their family.
Because some of them were children, so they were involved, but people they loved were.
Okay, because they're children, they might be walking with guilt and shame. That's because of their parents, so they're forgiving their family. All right, somebody raised their hand somewhere. Yes.
Okay, so mine says that I'm living in peace with the choice I made, and I'm already helping a generation of orphan kids. So in some ways, I didn't think that the concept of forgiveness really had to do with me since I was not a perpetrator, and I think that I had already done what was expected of me to support those who were victims.
So I was mindful of who else had my role, and we're standing in very different places. And, and I tried to take on the mentality of a teenager who might have resentment for what their family was involved in, or even though they had themselves come to a peace club. So in that idea, I tried to offer a resistance to some of the questions and answers that you were asking, but we came at it very differently, which I think is important to see.
It's important that you find yourself being in a different spot.
In the same role, yeah.
Same role, but different spots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My role was a teenager as well, and I felt like as a teenager, 14-year-old, I didn't know what to do to get rid of the shame. I wanted to make it go away, but I don't know what to do. I'm just not old enough. I don't know enough, so I need someone else to show me.
But you still moved.
I still moved because of some things felt like suggestions, like maybe if I do that, and like the one that I remember is if somebody asks me for forgiveness, I will forgive them, because I feel like, well, I need that too, right? So if somebody asks for it, I will give it, but how do I get it? I don't know.
I understand. Kenny and then Mike.
I was also reflecting on the fact that Ruth and I had the same prompt and ended up in different positions. And for me, I was reflecting on the dynamic of friendship, not as my role, but as my bond and almost my imperative or responsibility as a friend and as someone who has been a mediator and a facilitator to take an active role. So I thought about a lot of those prompts in terms of...
Wait a minute. Mike, I said it was role play. You're playing that person.
But there was a neutrality of I was not among the people targeted. That was the only real dynamic I
But
had.
you brought in your current
Yeah.
life. Okay?
Yeah.
And by the way, that's very important. It's something to look at. They were playing those roles, but were they devoid of themselves while playing those roles? I can't hear you. Oh, great, great. You came back. I'm glad you did. Great. Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you. Him and then you.
So I had the same role as a gentleman in front, 14-year-old, living with shame. And I had a lot of the same feelings of, as a 14-year-old, some of those concepts were complex. And then also bringing in my current context, I'm a pediatrician, and I work with 14-year-olds. And it's very hard to talk about some of these complex and the idea of forgiveness and what that means. But it's interesting that my interpretation was to step back on a lot of things, feeling that as a 14-year-old with shame, I might resist or not move at all to some of those concepts.
I was thinking from the perspective of a survivor, young survivor, about the tension between a moment of making a decision about forgiving or trying to forgive, and then the process of the change that forgiveness represents. So one can happen at a moment, the other takes time, and there's a little bit of a tension there in how we think about forgiveness.
I don't know who you usually do this activity with, but just a reflection on the process. I'm married to a man who's a survivor, and I just found this incredibly emotional, bringing up a lot of thoughts of his family and what went through that. So just a reflection on that process there.
Are we done? Oh, not yet.
Yeah, I get kind of interested in the semantic quality of statements. And the second part was that my family does not want me to be friends with the kids of perpetrators, which doesn't express the, I'm assuming it's the child's opinion, and so it seems like they're kind of aware of living with the consequences, the expectation from their family, and then maybe some sort of conflict within themselves where they haven't expressed their own desire to be friends or not be friends with the perpetrators.
So to you, they're carrying some weight already. Anybody in the audience? Why are they not standing on the same line? What were your feelings when we went through this process? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. While watching them, I feel like their situation is different. They all have different contexts, different situations, so the way they approach it is different. That's why they're standing in different places. And even with people that have the same situation, the way they approach it is different. And I think that it reflects in how we are as human beings, that we approach forgiveness differently and at different times, and we're in different places in our lives. You could be quicker than me. It could take me a while to come to terms and accept and even agree. So that's why we're in different places.
Any other person from the audience? Felix. Yes, great. Oh, someone here. Yes, young man, please come. Did you raise your hand?
I was struck, I went to one of the reconciliation villages last November, and I was struck, I was talking with perpetrators and survivors that were living together, and I was struck how faith seemed to have a big part of it, how their religious beliefs and faith and all of that came, and whether they were willing to forgive. So it seems like there's definitional pieces of what forgiveness is and where it comes from.
So you're saying each one of them their background is playing a big role. And some of that is religious, where they define it in their religious terms, and that will be leading them in a certain place. Okay?
Thanks, Mark. You keep repeating that they were standing on the same lane at the beginning. I want to push back against that. Actually, you gave them a card which already made them not stand on the same lane. So standing on the same lane actually was an illusion. Then now actually they are more standing on the lane that they are supposed to stand on, but then also the difference is reflected in the positionality of a person in the way they react.
Sure. You made it more scientific than I had. All right, there's a lady right here.
Good afternoon. I was seeing how people move from their position. Firstly, they were pushed by your instructions to mean the instruction, the education a person gets might contribute to change the position around forgiveness. Secondly, I was seeing people waiting for others to see where a big number is. So to me, in the journey of forgiveness, there is a kind of imitation and an answer for a question. If others made it, why not me? There was also a kind of facial expressions for some questions. To me, our emotions, most of the time, contribute to our actions when forgiving or for asking for forgiveness. Thank you.
Great. There's a lady in orange behind you.
I'm going to make it more scientific again.
Sure, sure.
So their lived experiences, so you are talking about ontology. So their lived experiences and then the cultural bit could have affected that. Thank you.
Their lived experience. And that is going to bring me back to you. When I gave you the instructions, I told you to play those roles as those people. But what I heard is actually you guys played yourselves. Half and half? Tell me more about that.
Well, it's hard because when the way that the topics are, the way you prompt us, it's like a counseling session. And you're asking us, like, do I forgive this person for that? I'm like, did I forgive them? Like, no, you know? And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm this person on the thing. And then sometimes I don't know how they would act either. So then it's either me guessing how they would act and or me doing what I would do.
Pretty much you put yourself. Pretty much you're playing yourself. In a way, just like you said, 50-50. Any other?
Yes, I played myself. I came last. But surprisingly, I'm 21 years old, not 21 years old today.
Well, you look 21.
Living with my siblings, truth. My parents were killed in 1994 genocide, truth. That's why I was dancing between the lines. The forgiveness is a process and it's personal.
It's a process and it is personal. Now, considering how many of you are from North America? All right. That makes almost 90%, isn't it? Now I'm going to ask these questions to you Americans. Where do you think America is, hoping that you guys are representative of America, on the spectrum of forgiveness? Yes, because it would have been the other way if it was for Rwandans. Don't hide, Kenny. All right, I want to hear that. It's a demonstration, but yes.
I don't have anything yet.
Yeah. It's interesting because that's a question that also came up when we visited the Reconciliation Village. That the people in the village asked us. I think we're along this spectrum, and because we are very individual, there are many things that some have made peace with, but others in our country have not made peace or given forgiveness or asked for forgiveness. It would be a wonderful thing for us to have a similar journey where we could bring everyone in America to a place where we could even talk about our own journeys in forgiveness. And I don't think we're there. Everyone watches the news. And I think you can tell that we're in a state of not actively talking about these issues and just yelling about them instead. So I think that we are in a place where we need to heal, and that everyone there also is in an individual path.
These are all generalizations, but I think that it's somewhat true that in America, on issues of forgiveness, people are quick to decide that they would be on this side or that side. They would forgive or they wouldn't forgive, and very often that they wouldn't forgive because they don't have the lived experience that Rwandans have, that many other people have, where you have to figure out a way to move forward. And they take the luxury of like, okay, it's a battle or it's an issue. I'm on this side, you're on that side, I can't forgive you. You did this, but they don't have to necessarily live with those people in the same way that a population that's experienced what Rwanda experienced.
I think from the perspective of the heart, we have a tendency to suppress, sedate, distract ourselves from this process of forgiveness, this process of healing. There's a lot of cultural reinforcement there. And then from the mind perspective, I think about the research that More in Common has done about the history wars, or the perception gap, where this is our culture war, is whether we should acknowledge and go through processes of truth and reconciliation, or we should move forward and just leave that in the past. And that is one of our biggest polarizing rifts in our society.
Great. And sorry, I didn't know the mic was hard. And last question, what was your takeaway from this little exercise and demonstration? Anybody?
I'll say it again, I think forgiveness is really tricky, complex, messy, and nuanced. And I think the woman's up there said it's so personal, and yet when a society, a collective of people come together, it's quite incredible to witness what is possible. But one of our storytellers would say, I'm lining myself up for forgiveness. I'll look at understanding, but forgiveness seems too far to reach right now. And I think Freddie said it was 17 years before, it's only the last 18 months Freddie met the perpetrator, and if you can't speak truth, it's a long process, isn't it? For a long time. But I think the ask to prescribe it, to have any prescription around forgiveness, is very tricky. So I think it's just very complex.
I'll also say that forgiveness is personal, and then it takes time to everyone. Not if you, for instance, just someone forgiveness, it doesn't mean that he will forgive you or they will forgive you. You just wait for their time for them to forgive you. Yeah.
This is going to sound very self-serving, but I'm plugging tomorrow's session where you can hear from some preeminent forgiveness researchers about how to forgive at 2 o'clock tomorrow, and what the process is to go through it, so that in fact it doesn't take 17 years if you have a resource that you can use. I'll also say about the question about Americans, looking at a resource that Templeton World Charity Foundation created, which is called discoverforgiveness.org. There are more than 70 pieces of peer-reviewed research on forgiveness, and predominantly, now these are the ones we found, I don't doubt that there's plenty more out there that we didn't, but predominantly they are from North American and European researchers. Again, I don't doubt that there's more to come, that we, especially given work that's being funded now. But I think perhaps it's good to know what the science of forgiveness is in order to know where we are as a people.
I had kind of two thoughts. The first one is that it seems like really intelligent people often have difficulty admitting that they might not have a clean takeaway, might not know things. And the second one is that it seems like we like to hear ourselves talk.
Yes. On that note, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, everyone. Let me hope you're not as tired as you were before. Let's head back to our seats. What we did was just a few minutes of what we usually do. And it's a whole process where somebody comes here, they go through the history, but also from the history, they move on to learn more and more, and we get to this point. This is just the drop in the ocean. But as you can see, if we went on to go deeper, we would have started pulling out even the emotions. And then people start opening up. And then people start connecting with each other. And then all of a sudden, they're going to enjoy even the presence of one another. The human-to-human connection that is fostered even through our trainings is always paramount to even the life after the trainings. And we've seen many of the people that we train go on to start reconciliation villages because they themselves have started the journey, but also to become change makers in their own communities. So this is just a demonstration of the few. But the other thing is, you also get to hear survivors and their offenders talk through their journey of forgiveness. And through that, I hope you can go back and think about different thoughts that you have, which thoughts can bring you to healing. Any questions from the audience before I go? I've worn my training hat now. Any question from the audience before I go? I have 1 minute, so I need to use it very well. Where is that question?
Oh, yeah.
Empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of the other. Most times, without the human-to-human connection, you'll never have empathy because they're far from you. And the more far they are from you, the easier it is to create stereotypes against them, and your fear makes you push them afar. And if you're scared of them, then it's more difficult for you to even listen to them or even love them or even solve any questions or problems that you might have. So the first part will be listening, but also opening your heart to the others. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.